Like,
the overview was, she said it was okay for me to go off on a business trip. It wasn't okay. She gave birth while I was driving, and I sped back home, but missed it by 10 minutes.
And thankfully we had planned a home birth, so we had a home birth midwife come to the house because I wasn't, by the time I realized I was in active labor, the contractions were coming every 2 minutes.
What's inactive labor?
When I was in active labor.
Oh, I see. Hi, welcome to the Postmodern family.
So if you like videos about Americans living in the UK, and also, what else do we do? Just family life?
Family life.
Hit subscribe.
Traditional family life.
We do 3 videos a week. And today's video is all about our first child's birth.
Yes.
Birthing that first baby out.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Were you there?
I was there 10 minutes late. Hey! The first time we learned about this concept of natural birth, we were looking for something to watch, and someone recommended this movie, this documentary called The Business of Being Born by Ricky Lake. And if you haven't seen this movie, you really need to stop what you're doing and watch this movie. Hospitals in the US treat birth like a business. They tend to control when birth occurs. They want to have it like an assembly line, a conveyor belt, stopping from one station to another, getting what the factory has decided they're going to get. And at the end, on schedule, on time, the baby is born. So it's really repugnant, a repugnant approach to birth, where if you look at the animal kingdom, if you look at the way we mammals give birth, it's not on a schedule, it's not on some regular rhythm, predictable. So what you're doing is the hospital, man, is imposing this artificial structure and construct on the process of being born. So this documentary opened our eyes to the fact that women and their babies are being incredibly traumatized and damaged by this factory approach to giving birth.
When we first found out we were pregnant, we did everything like normal people in America do, which is ask for recommendations on obstetricians, OBs, basically doctors. But as I was Googling how to avoid a C-section, I kept hearing the term or finding the term natural birth. And as I was looking up natural birth, the term Bradley method or Bradley birth kept coming up.
You know, I must admit, you come to your first birth situation with all the baggage and all the inherited stereotypes of birth, which is that there's blood squirting everywhere, on your face, on your hands, it's getting on the floor, people are screaming, running around the operating table. It's an emergency crisis event. That's the way you imagine birth. So when she approached me and said, look, there's this method that actually treats birth as a normal, non-emergency event.
Bradley method came up, and that's the one that I convinced Felipe to do.
You know, I was hesitant at first to change my approach to birth. I thought it was a medical emergency event.
The one advantage of the Bradley method that I found was that it was called the husband coach childbirth, and I really liked the idea that my husband would be trained how to best help me during pregnancy and labor and birth.
He dragged me in, and the class was titled, husband coached birthing, and it teaches men how to be almost like an athletics coach to an athlete.
It was a very intensive course, so it cost about $300, and it was a 12-week long course, and every class was about 2 hours. and we had to drive about 40 minutes to get to the nearest one that was available on the evening that we needed. But I knew, because of my lazy butt, that I needed to have the accountability. I really felt like we needed to shell out the money so that I would be accountable to somebody, anybody that we paid for, you know? And then that would hopefully prepare my body and my mind for a good outcome.
You take this course on how to deal with each phase of birth, how to manipulate the body of the mother, how to get her psychologically into the right place for each phase. And it was really quite informative, and I learned a lot about birth.
As we were going and learning more and more about birth, we started to realize that a lot of the things that were being asked of me by the doctor, the OB, were kind of unnecessary. We looked up the cesarean section rate of the particular doctor and the hospital that we had been seeing to find out that it was one of the highest in the region, higher than the national average. So the national average is around 33%. This was around 40%, and I think the OB himself was like at 50%. It was ridiculously high. The closest birthing center from us was an hour away, but there was a nearby midwife-led hospital unit that I decided to transfer to. In the meantime, we're learning more and more in our classes, and I decide that we should look into having a home birth.
Which, you know, I was initially against, the whole family was against, but she insisted and I became convinced.
I didn't want to have the pressure of being in a hospital setting, them telling me that I needed this or else my baby would die, and not knowing if their interests were in for the best interest for the baby or me, or maybe that their interests were to clear the bed earlier or to go off on vacation earlier, etc. I didn't feel like I could trust them, really.
So, you know, we're heading up to the 9th month, and I'm really kind of excited about directing the birth, coaching her through the birth.
So Felipe was on his way to a work conference that was a 4-hour drive away, and I was 39 weeks pregnant, and I didn't think that I would be coming, I didn't think the baby would be coming anytime soon, because I was convinced that the average gestation for a first-time mother is 41 weeks and 1 day, and I figured 39 weeks would be too early. So I said, that's fine, I don't feel like there's anything happening, you can go.
As I'm driving, she's calling me periodically, telling me she's feeling these Braxton Hicks, these stretches.
So I thought, this is probably Braxton Hicks. It doesn't hurt. It just feels a little bit like tensing up. Whatever.
I started timing them on my own just to make sure things were okay, and they were starting to get regular, these calls about these issues.
So I had been sewing for hours, sitting, and so I decided I'm going to get up and take a shower. Now, when I get into the shower, that's when my contractions go to about 2 minutes apart.
So I decided to call the midwife.
3-way call, and she hears me through a contraction grunting. She says, I'm coming straight over.
So I had set up this tub in the laundry room with a quick release valve and hot cold switchers, all engineered up so that it could just, you know, fill up the tub as quickly as possible and then drain it.
Before she got there, I was having contractions every 2 minutes, and I was thinking, okay, at the next break that I have, in those 2 minutes, I'm going to go unlock the door, I gotta let the dog out, I want to fill up the tub, and so between contractions, I was trying to do all these crazy things. I didn't know anything about the tub. You were the only one who had planned it, and I was in the middle of contractions, so I couldn't even think straight enough to figure out what to do with the knobs. When the midwife arrived, I asked her to check me to see if I was fully dilated or not, because I told her I felt like I needed to push, and she said, you are completely dilated, you can push right away. Yeah,
this is definitely birth, and she's fully dilated, so the baby basically could come out at any time within the next, few minutes to an hour.
But I thought, I want to have Felipe here, so I kind of didn't know what to do, and I just asked her, do you think I should just not push and see if Felipe can make it? She said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Just blow through the contractions then. Don't hold your breath.
By that time, I had reached my hotel, but turned around. So I'd race back, you know, going 100 miles an hour on the motorway, on the freeway, and she was holding the baby in as long as she could, and I was trying to coach her as best as I could through the phone, put her in the right mental states and things like that.
My friend, who is a photographer, came and took some photos. Yes. And she also held the phone so that Felipe could see me on FaceTime, and I can see him, and he can kind of coach me through all of the relaxation techniques and practices that we did. I did that for 3 hours. Felipe sped his way home, and he missed the birth by 10 minutes.
But I got there, I got to cut the cord.
And then we transferred the baby onto his chest for skin to skin.
And we just were able to hold her the whole time. There wasn't this business of taking the baby away for an hour or whatever to wash and evaluate and this and that.
And I moved into the bed upstairs. So they cleaned up for me. All I did was got into bed. And they drained the birthing pool. They cleaned up, put all the laundry in the laundry machine. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience.
Seeing our baby for the first time, and she was chill. The baby was very relaxed. So it was in our home, it was relaxed, and it was an amazing experience that I'll never forget.
It just changed my whole perspective on birth in America and in the West in general. That got me into wanting to become an instructor. So we didn't tell a lot of our friends that we were planning a home birth because it was just so, people would think we were kooks.
Taboo. You know, I'm really thankful that Lillian convinced me to do Bradley, to have a home birth. And I'm convinced, this is anecdotal, but I'm convinced that a lot of that has an impact on the behaviors and the way the child grows up to be. If you have a really hectic, traumatic birth, I think that will have an impact on the child's psychology.
So we're planning a home birth for our second.
Key, another husband-coached home birth. Trademark.
We want to hear from you guys. What do you think of home births? And if you've had one, or if you are thinking that we're crazy that we had one, we would love to read your comments. Let us know what you think. And we'll follow up with a little bit more about the Bradley method because I have asked Felipe to join my next upcoming class.
Which you teach, not receive.
Teach. And so he's going to be getting a refresher.
So you loved the Bradley method so much that you became a Bradley instructor.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for watching.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.